Beneath the glitz of Waikiki, a travel documentary often portrays as a tropical paradise, lies a nightmare no one dares to talk about. Just steps from the billion-dollar resorts, children sleep huddled on cold concrete, in a stark and haunting reality. More than 11,000 Hawaiians sleep on the streets, many displaced. In this street documentary, we expose the system, uncover forgotten voices and reveal what's really going on behind the tourist brochures. Like and subscribe to hdneww to learn the secret. The truth is much more complex and much more human. First, there's the homeless crisis. Hawaii is a paradise by the numbers, but paradise clearly has a dark side that most tourists will never see. In early 2025, Hawaii was home to more than 11,600 people without a permanent home, the highest per capita homeless rate in the United States, at about 46 people per 10,000. People do not live in beachfront condos but in cars, tents, and parks. The cause of such a sudden and severe increase was the catastrophic Maui Island wildfire in August 2023, which burned entire neighborhoods, leaving land scorched and lives shattered, destroying more than 3,000 homes and thousands of residents suddenly on the streets. But the fire did more than just take their homes. It showed how fragile the state's housing system really is. Now let's break it down by island. Because homelessness here manifests itself in different ways depending on where you look. Oahu, the most populous island and home to Honolulu, has the largest homeless population at nearly 4,500 people, more than all the other islands combined, and more than 60% of those people sleep completely outdoors, with no shelter, no safe place, just bare ground. The Big Island of Hawaii has fewer people, about 718, but the challenges are just as daunting. Aue is still suffering from the effects of the fires, reporting about 654 homeless residents. Meanwhile, the small island of Kauai has nearly 523 homeless people, but these numbers don't tell the whole story to really understand the crisis. A barefoot man pulls a cart full of cans along the sidewalk while a young woman tries to shield her child from the afternoon sun with a patched tarp too many times to count. These are not statistics. These are people living everyday realities, in stark contrast to the postcards for sale just a few blocks away. This is the contradiction in Hawaii's identity. A state that sells paradise while thousands live on the edge. A place where tourists spend thousands of dollars for a weekend getaway while families sleep in abandoned cars on the same block. And it forces us to ask, how could a place of such beauty leave so many people behind? Second, why can't more people afford to live in Hawaii? This is the question that comes in waves. How can one of the richest and most beautiful places in America have thousands of people sleeping on the sidewalks? Let's start with the first and most devastating question: isn't Hawaii too expensive to live in? By early 2025, the average adult in Hawaii will need about $65 a month just to cover basic expenses, and that doesn't even include rent. Now imagine trying to rent a modest one-bedroom apartment, which, depending on the island, will cost between $800 and $2,300 a month. That's more than the average rent in Los Angeles, and Hawaii is made up of islands, not skyscrapers. Even with a decent annual income of around $80,000, many people still have full-time employees, teachers, nurses, and hotel staff. They're struggling to stay afloat. Some are just one paycheck away from an accident or a rent increase. And if it were just about money, maybe a raise would solve the problem. But the deeper you dig, the more complicated things get. The second reason is the dire shortage of affordable housing. To meet demand, Hawaii needs to build about 3,600 new units each year through 2030. But that's just to keep up, not to make up for the backlog in the next 2 years. More than 11,000 units considered affordable could disappear altogether when government subsidies expire. That means even the few places low-income residents can afford are disappearing. And building more housing isn't easy. Stringent sanitation laws, limited land, and construction costs that are 30% higher than the national average have turned housing into a slow-motion disaster. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket in the middle of a drought. But even the homes that have survived may not survive the next fire. In August 2023, the Maui bushfires burned down more than 3,000 homes, displacing more than 6,000 families overnight. Some lost everything, others have been living in temporary shelters ever since. And with climate change happening faster, stronger storms, rising sea levels, more frequent fires, natural disasters are no longer a rare occurrence. This is the new normal. The island's recovery has been slow, entangled in bureaucracy, and many survivors have quietly fallen into homelessness over time. But the crisis is not just from within but from a movement both inside and outside. Kauai remains a magnet for those chasing the American dream. Thousands come here every year hoping for a new start in paradise, but those dreams are not enough to pay the rent. Many people come here with no financial network and quickly find themselves trapped in poverty all at once. And finally, perhaps most tragically, is the mental health and addiction crisis. About 30% of Hawaii's homeless population lives with untreated mental illness. Another 20% struggle with substance use disorders. Rehabilitation and psychiatric care centers have severely underfunded waiting lists that last for months. Too many people are falling into misery with their lives falling apart right before their eyes. So this crisis didn't come out of nowhere. It came from years of pressure building up below the surface, a perfect storm of failed poverty policies and broken systems all collapsing at once. And the question we face now is not just why is this happening, but what are we going to do about it? Third is what the government is doing to fix the situation. If homelessness is Hawaii's hurricane, the government has finally begun to look for an umbrella, but it will be too little too late. In the fall of 2023, Hawaii Governor George Green made a rare and courageous decision to declare an official housing emergency, and that was not just a political gesture but a desperate signal that things were spiraling out of control. His plan is a three-pillar approach that sounds promising on paper. First, build more housing and do it quickly, especially on state land, where red tape can be cut. Second, reform of soundings and housing laws that have made it nearly impossible to build affordable units at the pace needed. Third, invest heavily in infrastructure, especially in rural areas where homelessness is quietly rising but often overlooked. To support all of this, the state has allocated nearly $300 million to the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation, which is responsible for developing and managing affordable housing. To put that into context, Congress has approved more than $3.6 billion nationwide by 2023 for homeless assistance programs, including housing vouchers, emergency shelters, outreach programs, and mental health support. Hawaii gets a piece of that pie, but with demand skyrocketing and construction costs rising, that piece will quickly become small. But here's the thing. While these programs are important, it's like trying to save a sinking ship with a cup of coffee. Demand is growing much faster than supply. Thousands of people are still being left behind. People who need more than just a job or a bed to sleep in at night, but also long-term support, mental health care, addiction recovery, and a second chance. And it's not just about money. It's about coordination. It's about courage, and above all, it's about vision. Because the truth is, if the government just tries to catch up, the crisis will continue to win. What Hawaii needs is a shift in mindset. From treating homelessness as an emergency to treating it as an emergency, which is housing as a human right. So yes, the wheels are turning, but there's a long way to go and time is ticking. That's 4 solutions that could actually help end homelessness. Let's be honest. It's easy to be critical. It's hard to come up with answers that actually work. But despite the scale of Hawaii's homelessness crisis, solutions do exist and are more achievable than you might think.